Thank you, Claudia, for inviting us. My name is Enrico Ippolito. I'm a co-editor of Delfi Magazine, nicht Magazin für neue Literatur, so muss man es auf Deutsch sagen. And we publish biannually together with Ramiro Bifara, Fatma Aydemir und Miguel Schellbach. Thank you. You might have noticed that we are in a gallery and we are part of the last event that the exhibition For Real is hosting, so we're really proud. Thanks again. And maybe you didn't have the chance to see the exhibition. If you want to, you have a month. There's exactly a month is what Matthias told me, so I think it's true. Let's hope. Anyway, otherwise you check the internet. And I'm going to read a little bit what For Real is about before introducing my incredible guest panelists, friends. Yeah, I just went there. I was like, yeah, we're friends now. We're friends now. If you like it or not, this is what's happening. For Real is presented by the Racial Imaginary Institute, an interdisciplinary cultural laboratory founded by the poet Claudia Rankine, sitting over there, in collaboration with the DAAD Artist in Berlin program and in conversation with Kevin Cashie's book, Black Aliveness, A Poetics of Being. Next to me, now I'm going to introduce writers. On my left, Melanie Jame Wolf is a self-taught artist living and working in Berlin since 2011. She works across choreography, performance, text, moving image, sculpture, and installation. She makes work for theater, gallery, and screen spaces. Melanie Jame has shown at KW, Institute of Contemporary Art, Künstlerhaus Bethanien, Institute of Modern Art, Brisbane, Kunstmuseum Basel, Hau, Hebel am Ufer, and many, many more. This was just a selection I chose. She was a nominee of the 2022 Berlin Art Prize. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And next to Melanie Jame, we have Raphaëlle Red, who was born in Paris and grew up in Berlin. Raphaëlle writes in French, English, and German. Her German language texts have already been published in anthologies like Resonanzen and Glückwunsch. Adiku is her debut novel, which she wrote in French and then co-translated, can we say it like that, into German. And for Adiku, she won, together with her translator, Patricia Klobuchitsky, the Prix Première. Thank you so much for being here. We have one mic. No, sorry for the confusion. No. We did a
really long sound check. So
really long sound check, but I was not willed to leave this cabled, wired microphone. I wanted this one. So we have 4 microphones now.
Okay, that's cute.
I think we have enough.
Perfect. No, it's great. We can just switch back and forth or something.
We can work it out as we go along.
Do you prefer to have me also?
No, I'm liking the chord vibe.
You're like, I don't care. All right.
Yeah, it's really giving late night entertainment.
Okay, yeah, that's what
and that's what we're here for, right?
Exactly. So I thought, in spirit of the exhibition, to talk a little bit about how your own biographies shape your work or your process, or how you choose themes, questions for your projects, and what role it plays.
Are you looking at me? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at both of you.
Oh. But we're both looking at you.
Yeah,
so Raphaëlle, please.
Hi, everyone. Good night. Good evening. Good night. I'm a little tired. Yeah, how does it... Well, I think, maybe we'll talk about this more later, but I think the biography question is so tricky, and I tend to answer it really differently, just depending on what environment I'm in and who I'm talking to. because for a long time I was getting quite frustrated with the way in which it felt like any writing by, women, Flinta people, especially if they were of color or black, was only ever read as autobiographical. And it was always like, well, why do you think that I don't know how to invent something, but then Hans does? Like, what's the logic behind that? But then, of course, once that is out of the way, I find it really interesting to think about the way in which my life, but also like the kinds of whatever crosses my path informs the work that I do, and that is like the core of everything. I mean, I think my favorite part about being a writer or being able to do this as a main gig most of the time is just the ability to go through the world with a special kind of openness and curiosity, and know that that's like part of my job, and I find that really, really exciting. So reality is a really central, inspiration for me.
Is it for you, Melanie Jame?
How is it for me? Yeah, I think this is interesting, this idea that if you're not at least a cis man, then you probably have a poverty of imagination, meaning that you can't invent a world. Often I've performed texts that I have written, and people come up to me afterwards and say, "Have you written that? Or who wrote that? Did they write it for you?" And I think the thing of working with biography, first, exactly, there's this assumption that it must be related to your own experience, that you can't invent a world. But I think the fun thing about choosing to be a little capricious with working with and not with biography is that you have the right to change your mind. And I think this is really important, that you can tell a story about yourself and then you can change your mind about those facts and that information. And for me, there's something important, especially I think coming from a working class background and having done sex work and all of these kinds of things that can be used against me in a court of law or a literary panel. That I can't be pinned down. That I had the good fortune of meeting Deborah Levy earlier in the year, and she's one of my favorite authors. And I was so excited because her Wikipedia says that her birthday is August 6th and my birthday is August 7th. So I was like, oh my God, we're practically the same person. It's so exciting. I can't wait till we meet. And we met, and she's like, smokes rollies. She's like 65. She's stunningly beautiful. I was just like agog. And she's like, yeah, that's not my birthday. And I love that. It's like this refusal to be known. I can work with the thematics that are interesting to me. I always come back to the idea of performance as labor. I always come back to the construction of moral vanity as an economy, because those things have had a big impact on my life. But, the actual autobiography, you can keep it slippery. Yeah.
Raphaëlle, you mentioned it, that how we're rooted in reality, and I'm interested for the both of you, because writing at first is such a solitary work, right? And then at one point you decide to let the outside, so to speak, in. Is it that way for the both of you as well, or is the outside always part of it? You know what I mean? Is it it might be a weird question, but I'm really interested in knowing how your process is. Are you shutting down everything, Instagram, deleting Instagram from your phones and just trying to get in the zone to write it? Or how does it work for the both of you?
I mean, for me, maybe I used to feel like that. But then I had a child, and so then there is no shutting out the world. And the problem with having a kid is that I personally find, and especially as I've gotten older, the first 3 hours of the day are like the golden hours for writing. I like to get up and write. whether I'm writing for a performance, a film, a published text, whatever it might be. And then when you have this responsibility of having a child, that changes. But I'm not sure I write in a way that I understand your question about letting the world in or not. Or maybe we just...
That your process of writing is not...
It's not that solitary, because it just can't be.
No,
yeah.
Sometimes it can be, sometimes it can't be, and it differs from people to people, right? I enjoy it a lot to be by myself, shutting down and write, but a lot of people need community, a collective talking about their work while they're writing it. So that's why I was curious to know.
To me, this is a really interesting question because it's actually part of what I'm trying to figure out at the moment, I think. I have a life in which I can be very alone if I want to, or alone a lot if I want to. And I think that a lot of the writing I've done, at least the novel, for instance, it was so lonely writing that novel, especially the first years. It was like, on the one hand, because I was lonely writing it, but also because I was getting lonelier as I spent more time with this text because it was isolating me from the world. But then also, I think what's interesting about your question is sort of like, which world are we talking about shutting out? So yeah, I don't really need to be on Instagram if I'm going to try to get some writing done. Like, I feel like that does it. It's not helpful because it's a kind of world or a kind of access to the world that's not going to help me in that moment. But I love to have the radio running in the background of everything I do, for instance. I'm kind of always listening to the radio. I'm bad at writing when it's quiet, so I like to go to like cafes and things like that and like have people yap in the background is really helpful for me. So like I do, and also I think I write because I am very anxious about being in and of the world, and this is the way I've found that kind of works for me. It's the way that I can engage with it the best, to be honest. So I think like even if sometimes it requires taking a step back from some parts of it or some channels, the ultimate, it's not even a purpose, but I mean, that's what I think I do writing, is engaging with the world.
My last question about the outside world before we get deeper into the reading. In times like these, in times of crisis, does your process of writing change? Does something change for you in how you approach your writing or your performances or your art? It's a difficult question, I know.
I've got like two things that come to mind that maybe because they're tied to what I just said. I think the temporality changes. Like, there's a sense of, I mean, I sometimes I like that literature is very slow. It's such a slow medium. But then there's also times when I really feel the need to at least go through the shorter routes that exist within literature. And that might mean like other forms of publishing or whatever, or performing texts, things like that. So that shifts. And then I think, but that's not just writing. It's just everything is like finding it sometimes really hard to find a rationale for what it is that we're doing. But then again, that's when the thing I was saying previously kicks in, which is I'm not doing it because I think it's the best or even that valid of a thing to do. I'm doing it because that's what I know, how I know to engage with the world and care and have a sense that I can be a part of it and contribute to it, even if it's just by like being like, here's what like that's what it feels like. It's not that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I find it. What do I think? I in one of the challenges, especially having been living in Germany as a non-German for the last, 22 months, which has been an astonishing experience of reckoning with culture and differences in culture and political imagination. And, I found a lot of my energy goes into sublimating my rage, which is actually grief, and that's like not a joke. It's like me ugly crying alone in my house when I'm meant to be writing, because I've seen videos of eviscerated children again, which is, is an abomination. There's no political excuse or justification for that. It is an abomination, and it is a grave shame on all of us. And one thing I think is great for me is that I get to perform my texts. So there's an immediacy for me, and there's a fluidity with text for performance. And I'm starting to write a novel now, and I'm scared of the permanence of the text. Whereas with writing for performance, I can change things on the fly, and my performances are usually quite conversational. They feel a little bit like what we're doing right now. And having had to sharpen a certain cunning for being able to say things in a German-funded context that get to the point, so we all know what we're talking about, but I'm not naming things explicitly, which again is a crying shame if we really think about it, and is a question about how liberated any of us might be in this country. So I have this luxury of being able to shift my language and kind of exorcise some of that grief collectively, which I know people really appreciate, and which I certainly appreciate when people respond to it in such an immediate way, because I think there's a thirst for it and a need for it culturally. And so my final thing on all of this is, I have, sometimes you might know people, or you see people and they're like, how can you make art during a genocide? And I'm like, well, we've been making art through numerous genocides already for a long time. And I come from Australia, which is a slow motion genocide. But I think the thing for me, or my response to that, is that to live a poetic life, to live a life in poetry, thinking about form and delighting in composition and these kinds of things that have nothing to do with capital or production or fascism necessarily. They have to do with living a poetic life. And I'm not saying art is resistance or poetry is resistance, but I am saying that in such an existentially abject time, to live a poetic life, if you have the privilege to, I think is a responsibility that we have.
I'm thinking how to get from your response.
How do we climb down from this ledge?
Well, we can just say that.
We could say that.
Sorry, we can?
No, I don't want to.
No, go. Say what do
No,
you say?
I was just saying we don't have to. What's the expression? Climb down from this
Climb
ledge.
down from the
That's all
ledge.
I said.
Yeah.
Climb down from the ledge.
That's just.
All right.
All right.
It's all right.
We make a cut here with the outside world and maybe go into the first reading.
Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think it's we because I don't love the idea of just making a cut with the outside world in this case, but I think it is quite befitting because it's about a character who literally has to turn off her phone and go into a space where she can't be in touch with the outside world at all. So
weird.
It won't be awkward.
I mean, we're beyond that. I think this is how.
So
we're
have
beyond
a question.
awkward.
I have a little
how
question.
we have to.
That's the new aesthetic,
This
beyond
is the new
awkward.
aesthetic and we have to deal with it.
I have a little question. Can I read in German, or do you prefer me to read in English? I'm seeing sad faces. Okay, I'm gonna read in English. Wow. Okay. I mean,
It wasn't enthusiastic consent.
It was definitely not enthusiastic consent. Jesus Christ. Okay. All right, everybody. So I'm reading from this piece called "The Longest Game," and it starts with a quote by Claudia Rankine from Citizen, the amazing Claude Rankin, the amazing citizen. Perhaps the committee's decision was only about context, though context is not meaning. It was a public event being watched in homes across the world. In any case, it is difficult not to think that if Serena lost context by abandoning all rules of civility, it could be because her body, trapped in a racial imaginary, trapped in disbelief, code for being black in America, was being governed not by the tennis match she was participating in, but by a collapsed relationship that had promised to play by the rules. Perhaps this is how racism feels no matter the context. Randomly, the rules everyone else gets to play by no longer apply to you. And to call this out by calling out, I swear to God, is to be called insane, crass, crazy, bad sportsmanship. The longest game. She needed to decide on the day off, which did not leave her much time, but of course, production already knew that. This kind of thing, you had to really want it, and you should just know immediately. And if you weren't certain, well, that wasn't a problem either, because there were plenty of others, especially others with profiles like her own, plenty of others who wouldn't have a moment's doubt. And so she said her thanks, hung up the phone, slurped down her iced coffee, and took a seat on a swing in the nearby park. Maybe she'd just grown up bottling her tears, or maybe she had a heart full of epoxy in her chest. Maybe she felt still a bit of joy left over from her dream, or maybe she just still felt the phantom pains from her collision yesterday. The voice of that stranger as he'd called after her over and over again. She was taking up too much space on this sidewalk, in this country, or likely just too much space all around. She stared at the blue asphalt of the soccer field, the gray bars of the metal grate, the empty street, and she called the number back. The ad read something to the effect of, the candidate should be conventionally attractive, but with an edge. She could be angry, but in a non-threatening way. She should give off the impression that you could pat her on the head, but still seem passionate and sexy at the same time. She should read as queer, but still appeal to a general audience. The candidate should bring some unspecified infatuation with her, an unfulfilled yearning for an implied object. She should be ready for a relationship while prone to ill fortune. She could be a bit dramatic if need be, only she should not seem pathetic. She should be confident in her desires, but only to the extent that she not appear immodest. She should have a sense for when she was becoming tedious, but she should not exude any untimely doubt. Someone answered after the third ring. Okay, she said, I'll do it. She inhaled gloomily. Name? Demanded the voice on the other end of the line. What had she been thinking? This question might seem appropriate later on, but they say everyone keeps quiet. There's probably nothing but silence and discomfort, with the exception of a few comments on a couple YouTube videos. How could she have expected things to go differently? She might ask herself that later, too. Hadn't she known she was responsible for her own comfort and safety? And that she was, for that reason alone, also expected to protect their white innocence? Well, that wasn't someone anyone would say. That was a bit too abstract. And so they all just keep playing. Just one more round, a warm-up. It doesn't count just yet. It's a well-known game, popular even. It asks burning questions of the entire nation, questions in a teaser after the weather report. Or it asks questions of only one part of the population, the part that can handle seeing her on TV, or the part that masturbates to her image in the opening scene. That's a question of affiliation. It depends on the algorithm. After the trailer, in golden Gothic typeset, every Sunday at 11, the game provides an opportunity for renegotiation. No black woman has ever made it into the game before. Well, that's not entirely true, but it sounds good to present it that way. Or perhaps she is one of many as yet unknown names, which might explain why she always has the lingering feeling that she's setting her ass down on the stains of someone else's sweat. But this game always reshuffles the deck. The game is an incredible chance at equal opportunity, as the station keeps reminding everyone. And that's why it's receiving public funding. The nation can't just sit by idly and watch the inexplicable onward march of discrimination. No, no, the nation is making a stand. In this case, a stand for her. After all, that's why the nation is paying production costs, so that they can bring her on TV with the express mission of ending racism for good. And sure, maybe that's a bit of a tall order, but maybe that's the price you pay for the kind of tolerance they're providing. And at this point, it doesn't make a difference anyway, because it's almost time. They're putting on her makeup right now. Only they call it a mask here. And no, they're not trying to be pedantic, but the game has conventions after all. And if she doesn't know them already, it is high time she learned. And that's something she's probably good at, isn't it? In the game, the production assistant explains, slipping on her own mask with a radiant smile, everyone is responsible for their own feelings. The production assistant's hand tucks a non-existent strand of hair behind her ear. She excuses herself. She is bound by her contract, after all. And so she searches her quickly for sharp objects, or maybe she doesn't. Or, unfortunately, she'll have to confiscate one of the 3 vapes, maybe the blueberry-flavored one. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We love nothing more than when a story we have in Delphi speaks to another text we have in the issue. In this case, we have the quote by Claudia Rankine that begins your short story, and also an interview with Claudia in the same issue. And those are these things where we have the feeling that we're making things right with Delphi and that it works. So this is kind of when magic happens for us. But I was wondering, what came before, the quote for you or the story itself? How did it all start?
Wait, first we have to name the translator of this. Yeah. It's Giancho Polizzi, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
This, because I wrote it in German, and this was the English translation of the beginning by Giancho Polizzi. Yeah, what came first? Well, I mean, I got to be honest. Like, ever since I read Citizen, it's been living in my mind since then, and it was sort of, I think it's been informing probably a lot of things I've done without me fully knowing it. But I think this particular lens and this particular way of using it or wielding it has been it's just lived with me. And so I remember already, like, I think the first text I wrote that was sort of in conversation with it was actually 2017 or so. It's never been published, but it was a text about the idea of the tennis court as a sort of tribunal with a jury looking down and sort of, and it was already like some sort of response or conversation. And so when y'all wrote and we're like, oh, this is the theme of the next Delphi, I was like, well, I think I want to do something about this idea of the rules. Also, just because Citizen is brilliant, this analysis is brilliant, but also there's something so visceral and intuitive about the idea that this is a really good definition for racism for me. Like, I feel like it's one of the most accurate ways that I've ever seen it described in a sentence, that this idea of the rules suddenly not applying, and everybody's like, no, you're crazy, of course they apply. And you're like, wait, I don't, what? Like, and this feeling of being like, and I think especially because in the year, like, and this is what I was trying to do with this story, is sort of, now I have a language to articulate this, and I can call out the thing, and I might still be called crazy, but I can, like, sit down and talk about it without crying or screaming if I really have to. I do love crying or screaming about it, but if I really have to, I can, like, make a logical point, you know. I guess, like, but So yeah, and then I in the novel I'm writing right now, there's a character that goes into a reality TV show, and I mean I wrote this last summer, right? So like I hadn't written much of the novel yet, but I was sort of thinking a lot about what it must be like. I think I have this like fantasy or dream, and it's been many, many, many years of actually being on a reality TV show.
Yourself?
Yeah, I would love to.
Which one?
The only reason, well,
now
I actually have a lot of thoughts about this.
You opened that door, so now we need to hear it.
No, wait, I'll share all my life with you, but this is too intimate.
Here's the line.
I'm talking about everything, throwing everybody I've ever known under the bus, but this is the line, and I will not do it. You'll find out if you stay tuned. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like I'm dreaming of it. The only reason I'm not doing it is because I fear the aftermath, because I don't know if I could be able to, like if I'd still be able to work the way I do if I exit after, like I don't know if I'd still be invited to, you know, the DAAD gallery.
Events like,
and it's, no, but you're laughing, but this is really serious. I actually, like, if I could get some guarantees from like 10 major cultural institutions that they will still work with me after this, I would totally go. You're the first one. Okay.
All right.
9 to go.
9 to go. But maybe, sorry, I can't let it go. Scripted or non-scripted reality?
Oh, yeah, no, I quite like scripted. I mean, I like okay, fine, let's do this.
No, you don't have to.
So
but
I want to go, I don't want to do a Survivor type of thing, because I don't want to have to work hard for anything.
But Survivor
I would
is
love to
super
do something where the how do you say dispositif, like where the setup is really complex. So I actually think The Ultimatum is like the most complex reality TV show, because there's so many things that you have to think about, and there's so many steps. And is everybody familiar with The Ultimatum, or do we need a little moment?
Never heard of it before.
I don't know how to make this short, y'all, because it's really complicated. But basically, okay, I'm just going to talk quickly. Basically, what happens is a bunch of people, so it's these couples, and in each couple, there's one person who wants to get married, and the other person is like, no, I'm not ready. So they decide to so they issue an ultimatum, the one that wants to get married. So they all go to a place, and then they all date each other. And the idea, I guess, is that the people who want to get married are going to find each other, and the people who aren't ready to get married are also going to find each other. Never goes that way. And the point is that, well, actually, I say never. I don't know, because I've only watched one season. But in the season I watched, it didn't go that way. And then, wait, what happens then? Yeah, then they have to decide if they want to go and have like a trial marriage together. So first they have the honeymoon. Wait, can anybody like help me out? First there's a honeymoon.
Can somebody help out?
Yeah, you know. Scream. Do you need a mic?
We have a spare.
we can give you a mic. Just explain to the people, because...
Tell them. Thank you, Raphaëlle.
Wait, really quickly, did you watch the Queer Ultimatum season? Okay, good.
No spoilers, please.
So first, they're kind of paired up in these trial marriages where they're split up from their original partner, and it's supposed to give the people who have cold feet about getting married the sense that their partner is actually the best person for them. And it's supposed to give them a sense of what it feels like to be married, but not to their partner, to someone else. And of course, they always end up forming emotional relationships with their trial marriage people, which ends up messing up everyone's relationships entirely. And then they have to go back to their original relationship after having done this trial relationship to see if they can make their original relationship work. And
All right. Thank you so much. A big applause. Thank you so much for explaining this to us.
No, but the idea is that they grow when they're doing that. Like it definitely sort of, they realize what they're doing wrong in their initial relationship. Right. It's beautiful. It's really about growth and
grow.
Peace.
All right.
Anyways, so yeah, that was a long answer.
No, we had a lot of fun. I love this. Melanie Jame, any reality TV you want to join? Maybe
I want to be like the Real Housewives of Gleistreich.
Ooh.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I have a nemesis who lives there, and I want
All
to
right.
start some trouble.
Both of you need
Wait,
to.
you do?
Yeah, for real.
No, but that's so exciting.
Yeah.
But you need a whole clique, though. You can't just be her and
Well,
you.
we are there
Yeah.
We don't live at. I mean, let's not
for
disclose
production.
addresses here.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
cool. Literary questions. I'm sorry for this, but I mean,
No,
it
I
is,
think
it's
this
important.
is exactly what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
I feel like it's right, and so
I feel
it's
like it's
right.
right.
Then, Mary Jane, would you love to read for us?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Mine is longer. Buckle in. Buckle in, buckle up. Prepositions. Who knows? So this is from my essay called The Mean Well, which was published in German in Delfi Magazine. But I'm going to read it, or some parts of it, in the original English tonight. Susan Sontag has 2 cars parked in an underground garage across the street from the entrance to the afterlife. Adhered to each vehicle is a black and white bumper sticker. On the rear fender of the metallic beige, let's call this color Champignon, 1978 Saab 99 Turbo sedan, in all caps, similes make us sick. No metaphors for illness. And on the back window of the dark blue 2001 Chevy Silverado 1500 pickup, again in all caps, illness as metaphor is a social disease. Attempts have been made to tear the stickers off. The impulsive clawing patterns across the edges of the texts suggest their failed removal was inspired by frantic sanctimony. The censor seemingly ablaze with conviction that they are a vessel for the righteous, that they are without doubt a good person. That's capital G, capital P. I am sitting in a hospital waiting room, wondering what happened to Susan Sontag's famous bear suit. I am in the waiting room toilet, staring myself down in the mirror. I have spent the last year trying not to die. My 4-year-old believes there has been a small crustacean living uninvited in my right breast, snapping at my lymph nodes with its mean little pincers and unleashing havoc in a sideways scuttling motion as it summoned horror on my body. The German noun Krebs offers a concrete creaturely image. A crab is a tangible totem to pray to or devil to cast out, infinitely preferable to the edgeless abyss of menace conjured by the English cancer, the word I grew up with. The crab is a useful fiction for a child, and its lack of sentimentality is my favorite part. It rendered my illness and its treatment comprehensible to a 4-year-old who loves me and who has also been hosted in my body. Is the Krebs weg, Mama? I am asked repeatedly in Denglish. Yes, as far as we know, the crab is gone. The medicine made it weak and the surgeries took it out. The radiation will hopefully make it feel like it can't come back. A useful fiction for a child is not the same thing as a conspiracy of metaphors by adults who scramble to costume the facts of living and dying in pathos pantomime. I am terrified of cancer. I am terrified of suffocating under the sentimentality of the storytelling that surrounds it. Stories that move in a lateral creepy crawl. I cannot stomach the countless disingenuous narratives built to avoid looking death in the eye. Beloved patients are hijacked with perverse metaphors of going to war as the market for bombs that rain down to kill and mutilate other people's 4-year-old children booms. Pink-coated bereavements for a femininity that I'm not convinced I am mourning are everywhere I look. You're a fighter, write multiple social media followers, sliding unsolicited into my DMs. Be positive, command people who clearly don't know me at all. It could be worse, sing the grinning chorus who have never had a cancer diagnosis. I recognize this dissociative relativism as a bad faith tactic against desire and dreaming, political and otherwise. I've heard it all my life. It is one of the many casual muzzles of good intentions. I am required now to make an announcement. I'm clearing my throat. I am tapping the mic. Is this thing on? Feedback pierces the atmosphere. I am wincing. It is my obligation to pledge allegiance to the following caveat. More feedback. What I am describing is not the case for everyone all the time. I am, of course, immensely grateful to the people who cared for me during my recent illness of a grave and serious nature, in which I inhabited the role of the beloved patient, especially the ones who did so genuinely and with great stamina. And it ain't over yet. Hi-hat, lone cough, a bottle rattles under a seat. I know this gratitude may help you stay with me, dear reader. It has come to my attention that many need to know I am an at least cursory subscriber to being a good person, and therefore deserving. To appear ungrateful is to go too far, outside the city gates to a criminal place, like a land acknowledgement or a condemnation of a terrorist group. I must perform the rite, no matter how rote, how hollowed of meaning, how monotone in delivery. I must say the words or fall out of favour, voiding the contract of your benevolent tolerance. The catechism of supplication to transactional generosity must be performed. Mic drop, made to look like an accident. Much like the perfect victim, to become the beloved patient is to risk becoming a surface upon which close friends and the most tenuous of acquaintances alike might play out their moral vanity. Cancer is an open audition for lovers of the role of being good. Mistaking my tumour for a truce, enemies get in touch with saccharine salvos. People I barely know or find unbearable, let it be known that they would like to come to my house with flowers. Absolutely fucking not, I snarl, shooting the messenger. Slay, snaps the crab. Let's isolate. We high-five, laughing, then weeping, for hours. Back at the underground parking lot, a good person with sticky fingers has popped the trunk of Susan's champignon Saab and is now holding a gun to the beloved patient's head. If you don't like this gesture that I am making, that you explicitly said you did not want anyone to make, then fuck off and die after all of you ungrateful fucking bitch. Die, die, die of your fucking cancer after fucking all. Die, 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 suffer, suffer and die. I was only trying to help. After all, I was only trying to help. After all, I was only trying to help is a sleight of hand that invests in a perverse economy with two vectors, the burden of grace and the burden of grief. Who carries who, and what happens when they get too heavy? How long can one carry without a witness? What is the value of a thankless task? The burden of grief is to not be monstrous when you feel most like an animal. The burden of grace is gratitude for a gift that maims you. I am fascinated by cancer. In the same way I was fascinated by giving birth. Death comes into the room meaning business and no one says a word about her. Like a villain, you cannot say her name. A similarly profound tacit agreement in the social contract is no tears in shared spaces with other breast cancer patients. I never saw a drop in the Brocentrum waiting room, and I never spilled a drop there either, nor in the chemo lounge. And then I met Frau Falke. I am in the hospital bed after my first lumpectomy. I insist on wearing an open-backed surgical gown rather than pajamas because it just feels more method. I am rereading Sick Woman Theory, and the Kookaburra hand puppet my child has loaned me as a friend for the occasion floats around the bed. I mistakenly believe the surgeon has taken out all the cancer, and I am luxuriating in a kind of surrender to what I falsely understand as the arrival of a longed-for threshold of renewal. Shortly after lunch on the second afternoon, a new patient is wheeled into the room. A post-operative bird of prey, stunned but coming round, quietly indignant through a sharp but lowered gaze. She is taking the temperature of the room through her peripheral vision. Pronounced beak nose already conducting the direction of everyone's attention. Feedback pierces the atmosphere. I've been in enough fights to know that psychic warfare is now on its way to room 2 of Ward 731B. By the time dinner has been brought in, Frau Volker is throwing language into the center of the room. She talks and talks. She wants us to mean well enough to catch all of her words. She picks up the corner of my robe from the floor and puts it on the bed because she is tidying up, because she is a good person. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and so she has a license to endlessly fidget with the slightly out of place. Since Frau Volker arrived, I have gone from twirling a pencil above my reading with a fluffy hand puppet tucked under my arm to furiously transcribing my experience in real time with my headphones on. I have gone from languidly lazing on my bed to sitting upright and angling my laptop on my knees to defend myself from eye contact. Frau Volker cannot leave the room without producing language. She is taking her own tray out because it is a life raft. Ordnung, because she cannot rest and she wants to unrest the rest of us so she doesn't have to be with herself. I want to be with myself. Oh Lord, how I want to be with myself. To write and move my body and learn the secrets of this time. I'm trying not to look up. I write, I type, I write, I type. She marauders. She is back in the room. Her drains clacking, her slippers shuffling. She's back in the room and she wants to throw more language, wants to re-straighten the objects she re-straightened just a few short moments ago. I know that the only way to bear her presence is through the universal lube of compassion. I have to lube the stiffened joint. I must be the lube. I cannot bear to be the lube. She speaks so loudly, I can hear her through my headphones with the music up. Up she gets suddenly and hits her head on the TV. I pretend I haven't seen. I don't know how else to conjure dignity for either of us. She is making sharp gestures with her hands. She's calling herself an idiot. I recognize the impulse. Spewing language into the corners, spraying it across surfaces, unwieldy, desperate, throwing it up against the walls to see if it sticks, to see if it stains, to see what it does. What it does is make a mess that no one wants to look at. I am typing furiously now. She is muttering, she is prowling around, prowler, creepy crawler. She is crying at the window but wrestling with the tears. She knows it breaks the no crying covenant. But come on, girl, let it out. Set us all free. But Frau Volker is not a comrade. Frau Volker understands domination as the best strategy to orient oneself in space. Even when she sleeps, she snores like a portal to the underworld, filling the room with herself. Meanwhile, I am busy in the shambolic core of my own oncological vision quest, directing language to a different purpose. Or is it the same? I would be lying if I said I didn't see myself in Frau Volker. Frau Volker and I are both desperately trying not to die.
Thank you so much. I was reminded when I said your biography, because you work in so many different mediums, and how do you know for what project you choose what medium? When do you know this is a written text, this is a performance, this might be a sculpture?
Right.
Does it matter? Or?
It does. It does matter. I like what we were saying before. Backstage, we were saying, like I pronounce myself as a formal slut, and I think Raphaëlle, you feel the same.
I do.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, proudly. And I like this idea that Johanna Hedver talks about, which is hermeneutical mischief, which is this idea that you just kind of that there's everything's allowed, everything's on the table, and you can just kind of work dialectically, through and curiously through different materials until the thing finds its vessel, But with this in particular, I was interested in this essay. Is it an essay? I don't know. This text in particular, I was interested in because I'm turning more and more to writing without performance, just like as a published thing. And yeah, so it was a formal interest met an idea. Yeah.
And do you use then the written text for performances or other mediums, or does it stay in the written box?
There's a lot of cross-pollination,
yes,
like the formal sluttery continues.
It works.
Yeah, yeah. And for example, the Frau Falke story is now a part of a stage work that I'm making. I'm making a comedy now about death, because there's nothing funnier. And yeah, it's kind of taking sections of the mean well now and seeing how to shift that formally for an audience, and that's fun. I've been able to do a few work in progress things, and people respond to it really well. Yeah.
I think I would like to return to a broader question, the ones we opened at the beginning, talking about biography. And Raphaëlle, you already said it at the beginning, that sometimes it's weird how reception of the work is, especially for queer, racialized and women, how it is often reduced to being only autobiographical. And on the other hand, there's like the real literature. And I get that it's frustrating, but on the other hand, like we said before, I mean, we're not outside of the world, right? So we are part, and our own stories shape and form what we do. So this is something I struggle myself with as a writer, you know, saying all the time, no, this is not biographical, this is like fiction. But on the other hand, of course, I'm in there, you know. And I was wondering what if you feel the same struggle, or if you have already found answers and are embracing it, that's the way it is, and that the literary world perceive it like they want to perceive, and it doesn't matter.
I feel you. I think I'm on that journey also, but I noticed myself being less and less invested in it, though. Or like, I think it was really important for me in between, but also for reasons that have to do with, you're just like, okay, like if I write a book now and the character shares some like things with me, then it also means that like the uncle is my uncle, and how's my uncle going to feel about this character? And the, you know, like it wasn't just, I mean, of course it was just me, because it was about how my relationship to my family members would look like, or my friends or whatever, but then it became quite funny after the book came out. It was worrying before the book came out. It became quite funny after the book came out, because I'd have some of my closest friends be like, what do you mean, like, you dated this person when you were... And I was like, this is not real. You would know. What the fuck? Like... And then it's become more of a funny thing. And also, I think that what I was trying to say... I think what's frustrating about the whole autobiographical read is just that it clouds vision. I think I wouldn't care so much about it if it weren't for that. But I find that it implies that the kinds of conversations that are being had around the book, and especially with me, but also in my absence, have a lot to do with, there's something a little infantilizing about them, a little condescending about them, as though I weren't conscious of the things that I was doing while I was writing the novel or the text. And there's a lot of things I'm not conscious. I mean, we can talk for hours about all the magic and the spiritual things that go into this, and all the unconscious. Like, I love talking about this, but I don't love having somebody explain to me that I didn't, you know, like some of the most basic features of a text are just like due to me writing down my life story as opposed to 7 years of work. That gets just a little frustrating. But then again, it's just ego, so it's easy to, you know, work on. But oh my God, hi. But this is what I was trying to, sorry, now I'm really not focused anymore. But this is what I was trying to say. So, this is what I was trying to say earlier is I think it's let's just put it this way. On a structural and political level, I find it quite frustrating, and that's why I sometimes bring it up, because I'm like, maybe it will do some good. On a personal level, I'm happy to announce that I have rid myself to almost, let's say 70% of this sort of annoying, like, the anger I used to feel about things being read only autobiographically. And then also, you know, I mean, you know, you can also, I mean, now I write things where I'm like, it's like, sorry, this is the last anecdote. There was this short story that I'm building on now to write the novel, and it has 3 characters, and they're sort of siblings, but not really, but they grew up together, and there's 1 girl and 2 boys. And it was very clear for me that I was that one boy. And I was like, God, this is so intimate, because really you can see all of my flaws in this character. And everybody consistently assumes that the character closest to me is Dana, the girl. So I'm like, oh, there's ways of working with this also. And that's why I love what you said about like slippery autobiography, or like, I feel like that's exactly it. That's amazing.
Anything?
I haven't written a book.
Not yet, but you're...
No, I am working on it. So, let's revisit this question in a couple of years. But the novel that I'm writing is about celebrity tribute artists, which is, you know, like I'm going to inevitably write about performance no matter what. It's just, I'm obsessed. But this question of autobiography and how to write and how to fictionalize the self, I mean, first of all, because you want to answer questions or be asked about yourself as a stylist, right? Or as a, how do you approach prose, and like these formal questions and all this work and this work of refinement. But when I made the performance work that kind of broke me in, not like spiritually broke me, like actually, you know, gave me a profile in public. I made a show called Mirror Fuchs, which was a show for 40 people sitting in a circle, and it's an essay in 13 fragments that draws on my experience of working for basically 10 years as a stripper in a club in Melbourne in the 2000s. I was a Y2K stripper, which was the golden era. It'll never be the same again. But but a thing about that, a thing that you can do in the theatre, or could do in the theatre at that time, which was cool, is you could have a press writer. So I could say that these certain I didn't want to talk about tabloidized, scandalous stories about stripping. I wanted to talk about the fact that I was talking about performance as labour and how we produce judgment, and how this show's length, everyone is offered a lap dance in turn, and the show's length is determined by whether everyone says yes to the lap dance or not. So it becomes this thing of people sitting with, how are we extracting labour? I want to talk about that stuff. And so in the end, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to answer these questions about, you know, the nitty-gritty of stripping, because you can't understand. You can't. And I'm not giving that to you. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the same when you write a novel. I don't know.
You will find out.
I'm going to find out.
You're going to find out.
I hope I find out. I hope I finish it.
Thank you, both of you. I had so much
Thank you
fun
so
with
much.
you on
Thanks
this
for
couch.
Here.
Thanks. Have a great night.